The storm was not an ordinary storm. It came crawling over the hills like a living thing, swallowing the moon and choking the stars until the night became an unbroken wall of darkness. The first raindrops slapped the dust with a hiss, and then the heavens opened in full rage. The wind screamed through the palm groves, ripping fronds from their crowns, sending them spinning across the soaked farmlands. Thunder cracked so close it felt like the gods were striking the ground themselves. On the narrow bush path that cut between the yam farms and cassava ridges, a lone figure stumbled forward. Chike. He had been walking since noon, his travel bag digging into his shoulder, his thin slippers already torn from the muddy ground. He had planned to reach the motor park in Umukpa before nightfall, but the burial at his cousin's village had run late. By the time he left Ntage, the sky had already begun its warnings. Now he was cold, drenched, and lost. Then he smelled it. Even through the rain, the aroma was unmistakable: pepper soup. Rich, fragrant, alive with spice and heat. It carried hints of fresh uziza leaves, onions fried in palm oil, and slow-cooked meat whose scent called into his lungs like an invitation. He stopped, shivering, his hunger suddenly awake. Through the curtains of rain, he saw it, a faint orange glow from a house up ahead. It was small, with walls of hardened mud and a roof of weathered thatch. The smoke from its chimney was steady despite the storm. As he stepped into the compound, the wooden door creaked open. She stood there. Tall and slender, wrapped in a deep indigo wrapper that caught the lamplight. Her geli was tied with impossible precision, untouched by the wind. Her eyes saw him first. They seemed to flash an amber hue for a heartbeat before returning to dark brown. "You must be freezing," she said, her voice warm but heavy, like honey poured over iron. "Come inside. The rain will not stop soon." Chike hesitated. His mother's old warning rang in his head: never eat from strangers when you travel. But another voice, louder, closer, was his hunger. He stepped inside. The hut was small but clean. A wooden table stood in the middle, already set for one. On it, a clay bowl steamed with pepper soup, accompanied by slices of plantain glistening in palm oil. The smell was intoxicating. "Sit," she said. "You will feel better." Chike sat. She lowered herself onto the mat beside the table, her gaze never leaving his face. The first sip was a revelation, heat and comfort flooding his frozen body, the meat so tender it melted on his tongue. The broth was deep, complex, layered with spices he couldn't name. He ate quickly, each mouthful blurring the sound of the storm outside. His eyelids began to grow heavy. It was then he noticed. Under the table, her feet were bare, but the toes were unusually long, almost curling around the wooden leg of the table. Before he could think, the weight of sleep dragged him down. When he woke, he was lying on a raffia mat in the corner. The sun streamed through gaps in the thatch. The woman was gone. The smell of the soup still lingered faintly, as if the air itself remembered it. He stepped outside into the bright, wet morning and continued toward the main road. By afternoon, he reached Ogondil village. People stared. At a roasted groundnut stall, an old man called out, You came from the old path. Did you stop anywhere?" Chike nodded. "A woman gave me food. She was kind." The old man's face drained of color. "Kind? That house is cursed. The last 3 who ate there never lived past the week." At the market, whispers followed him like a shadow. 2 women shelling melon seeds leaned toward each other. "That must be the boy," one said. "The one who ate at her house. They say she was Momanjidika, the best cook in 3 villages," the other replied. "Her food could make a man forget his wife's cooking. But after her son died," she lowered her voice, "they say she went to a place no one should go. Made a pact. Now she doesn't cook for people. She cooks for something else. Another woman selling smoked fish added, "My cousin swore she saw her walking into the forest at night with a covered pot. The next morning, a stranger in the village fell sick. By nightfall, Chike's stomach was in knots. His skin burned with fever, though the air was cool. When sleep came, it brought visions. He saw a clearing in the forest, firelight flickering. Mama Njidika stood over a blackened pot, stirring slowly. Shadows moved at the edges, tall, gaunt shapes with eyes like embers. One stepped forward, its limbs too long, its skin stretched thin. It reached into the pot and pulled out something pale and limp. A human hand. When he woke, a tall man in a faded hunter's jacket stood by his bed. "I am Okon," the man said. "I've been tracking Mama Njidika for months. You're lucky to still be breathing." He told Chike that in the past year, 7 travelers had eaten at her table. None had survived beyond 4 days. The healers found no poison, no trace of disease. "I believe," Okon said, "her cooking is part of a bargain. She feeds something that feeds her in return." Okon had dug into her history. She had once been the pride of 3 villages, her cooking famed at weddings, naming ceremonies, and harvest feasts. But her only son, Chidibia, had fallen ill with a wasting sickness. Desperate, she sought out a reclusive herbalist Ruma to practice the other kind of medicine. The boy died within the month. From then on, people said she was seen less in daylight, more at the forest edge after sunset. Her once plump figure grew lean. Her eyes, people whispered, sometimes glowed in the dark. Okon led Chike to the forest that night. They hid behind Iroko trees. Hours passed before she appeared, moving silently, carrying a clay pot. In the clearing, she set it over a low fire and began to chant. The flames bent toward her voice. Then it emerged. Tall, skeletal, its arms too long, its nails like knives. Its eyes burned like coals. It crouched over the pot, reached in, and pulled out what Chike could now see clearly, a severed human hand, its fingers limp. The creature bit into it slowly, severing it. At dawn, Okon and the elders confronted Mama Njidika. They searched her home but found nothing, no pot, no strange meat, nothing but the lingering scent of pepper soup. The elders exchanged dark looks. "Some evils," one said, "do not live where we can find them." They urged Chike to leave. The night air in the lodge room was cool, but Chike's skin prickled with heat. The aroma was unmistakable, rich, spiced pepper soup, the same one that had nearly cost him his life. It coiled into his nostrils, awakening the same hunger he'd felt on that stormy night. His bare feet touched the cool floor as he rose, eyes drawn to the open doorway. And there she was. Mama Njidika. Bathed in silver moonlight, her deep indigo wrapper caught the glow like still water reflecting the night sky. The perfectly tied girly framed her face, and her amber brown eyes seemed to flicker faintly, as though lit from within. In her hands, she carried a covered wooden tray. "My child," she said softly, "you left before I could serve you the main course." Chike's heartbeat slammed in his ears. How did you find me?" Her mysterious half-smile didn't falter. Hunger always finds its way home. She stepped into the lodge as though she owned the air around her. The smell grew heavier, clinging to Chike's skin. "I'm not hungry," he said quickly. "You are," she replied, voice like warm honey over a cold knife. "You just don't know it yet." Her fingers tapped the tray's lid. The sound was sharp, deliberate. "Just one taste," she coaxed. Chike took a step back, his mind flashing to the forest clearing, the gaunt creature, the severed hand. "I saw what you feed," he whispered. The smile froze on her lips. Her eyes darkened, but the amber still flickered faintly. Then you know the cost of turning away. Before she could move closer, there was a sudden pounding at the door. Chike. It was Okon. Mama Njidika's gaze flicked toward the sound. In that instant, the lamp in the room dimmed, shadows pulling in the corners. When Chike looked back, she was gone, only the faint aroma of pepper soup remained. Okon pushed inside, cutlass in one hand, lantern in the other. She was here, wasn't she? Chike nodded, trembling. Okon's jaw tightened. Then she's not finished with you. By morning, they were already on the road back toward Ogondil. She won't stop until you're either has or dead, Okon said flatly. He explained more of what he had uncovered. Mama Njidika's pact had not been with an ordinary spirit. It was a binding agreement with an Ogbunaik, a forest feeder spirit that sustained itself on human flesh. In exchange for feeding it, she was promised vitality, wealth, and the power to strike down those who wronged her. But the spirit grows greedy, Okon said. It always does. Soon it won't be enough to feed strangers. It will want her own blood. Chike swallowed. Her son. Okon's eyes were grim. I believe the sickness that killed him was no sickness at all. It was her offering. When they reached Ogondil, word spread quickly. Some villagers wanted Mama Njidika gone, others feared her too much to speak against her. The elders called a meeting in the square. She is not just a woman, one of them said. She is the doorway for something else. But fear ran deep. No one dared confront her directly. Until a boy fell sick. He had been passing her compound on his way from the stream when she called him inside for a drink of water. By nightfall, he was burning with fever. The village erupted. This time, there would be no quiet whispers. Okon had a plan. We can't just accuse her. She hides the evidence in the forest. We have to catch her in the act, and this time, in front of the village. That night, they hid not behind trees, but in the open, disguised among a group of angry villagers who pretended to be drunk from palm wine. The fire in the clearing was already lit when Mama Njidika arrived, clay pot balanced on her head. She did not come alone. From the opposite side of the clearing, the creature appeared, taller than before, its ember-red eyes glowing hungrily. Tonight, it rasped in a voice like dry leaves scraping stone, we feast. The villagers gasped as Mama Njidika removed the pot's lid. The aroma rolled out, spiced, rich, but carrying an undertone that made stomachs turn. Okon stepped forward, cutlass raised. What's in the pot? Her eyes blazed. You dare. He tipped the pot with the blade. The contents spilled onto the ground, and the truth burst open with it. Not goat meat. Not fish. Human remains. A hand, a foot, pieces of flesh still slick with broth. The creature hissed, crouching low to shield its meal. Cries erupted from the villagers. Some stumbled back in horror, others fell to their knees, crossing themselves and muttering prayers. 3 days later, in a nearby village, the night sky glowed with lantern light as drums and laughter filled the air. At the center of a joyous wedding feast, Mama Njidika moved with the ease of a welcome guest, her deep indigo wrapper shimmering under the firelight. She smiled warmly as she served steaming bowls of pepper soup to the guests, her unusually long toes curling against the earth with each step. When she placed the bowl into the groom's hands, her amber-brown eyes flickered faintly, just as, beyond the circle of light, a pair of ember-red eyes watched from the darkness, unblinking, waiting. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss what happens next in part 3 of This Is Why You Must Never Eat in a Stranger's House.